All right, guys, welcome back to the Sex and Bacon podcast. On today's episode, I have with me the lovely LaToya Dwight. And today we're going to kind of talk about things a little different than like we normally do. We're going to talk about women's health and kind of how that ties into our sexuality and all of those amazing things. So thank you, LaToya, for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited actually for this conversation because I mean, I know we talk about, women are so deserving of orgasms and our pleasure and all of these things, but that's really if a woman is, say, a healthy woman and she's in a position where those things are something that, she can have or she can access. And, that's not the case for all women. So, if you wouldn't mind sharing with everybody kind of a little bit of your background and your story, and then it'll give some context before we dive into the meat of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for having me again. I really do appreciate it. I always like to start off saying that because we get so used to just jumping right into conversations.
Hmm.
And I want to make sure that I just show my gratitude. So thank you again. My name's LaToya Dwight. I'm the founder of the Fibroid Pandemic. And honestly, I started this initially, it was a movement, but then it became my passion.
Hmm.
So I started it based on my own personal experience. I was dating my then boyfriend, and he and I, were intimate, obviously. And we decided we did not want to have an unplanned pregnancy. There are a lot of people out there who, while you may want to have kids or may not, whatever your decision is, but having an unplanned pregnancy, a lot of people, they don't want to do that, right? So I decided that I did not want to have an unplanned pregnancy. So I went and got an Marina IUD. Within a certain number of years, that IUD needs to be replaced. I went to go get it replaced, and my OBGYN, who I had been going to at the time for about 12 and a half years, she couldn't locate the IUD. So she sent me to ultrasound. So let me just kind of paint the picture a little bit. This is all within this same exact doctor visit. So their office suite probably had about, I don't know, maybe 10 different doctors in there. She was my OB for over 12 and a half years. And she sent me down the hallway, not into a different building, not into a different facility.
Hmm.
This is literally within her office suite. She sent me down the hallway, probably three doors down, to go get an ultrasound and try to locate the IUD. The ultrasound performed a topical ultrasound and she was unable to locate the IUD. So she did a vaginal and she was able to locate it. And the ultrasound specialist, the technician, I'm assuming she was probably exercising really good bedside manners. And she said to me, "Oh, by the way, how are your fibroids coming along?" And I go, "What's that?" And the look on her face, she was mortified.
Mm.
So she goes, "Well, how about I let you go back and talk to the doctor?" So I get back in there with the doctor, and she's just going through normal procedure about rescheduling me to come back to have the IUD replaced because by that time, too much time had passed and she didn't really have time to do it. So I go, "Okay, that's fine, but can we talk about those fibroids that the ultrasound tech mentioned?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So they look rather large. We can get you set up for a hysterectomy." And I go, "Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is moving way too fast."
Hmm.
So not am I only going to my OBGYN, who I thought I had an amazing relationship, but I'm being diagnosed, I'm receiving a diagnosis of uterine fibroids, which I heard of the word
Hmm.
or term, but I literally had no idea what it was. And I'm leaving with a recommendation to have a hysterectomy. Now, by profession, I am an employee benefits consultant. So what I'm
Hmm.
doing is I'm on that front line negotiating insurance contracts with the major medical carriers, whether it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Aetna, Cigna, all the major carriers. I'm on that front line negotiating those multi-million dollar contracts with on behalf of employers. So you go through open enrollment, your benefits may change. I'm that broker on the front line who's negotiated that deal. So I said that to say that I know a hysterectomy is a major surgery. And the woman or the human with the uterus, excuse me, will likely be off of their feet for quite some time.
Hmm.
And so I go, "Well, can you give me a little bit more information about these fibroid things and why you think it's necessary for me to have a hysterectomy?" Now, while I don't know what it physically feels like to be in need of a hysterectomy, I knew that I didn't feel sick, quote unquote, whatever sick feels
Hmm.
like. And so I kept really probing her for more answers. And she's just like, "Well, fibroids are just like kudzu. You cut them out and they're just going to grow back anyway. That's why I recommend a hysterectomy." And to me personally, that was very off putting because for you to compare my womb, there are people out there struggling to get pregnant.
Mhm.
There are people out there with zero libido because they're suffering from conditions like this, whether it's fibroids or endometriosis or PCOS or adenomyosis. There are people out there struggling. And so for you just to recommend the hysterectomy without even asking anything, was I planning to get pregnant? What was my wishes? Or now, granted, I wasn't, but she never even asked.
Mhm. I have to ask,
So
is the IUD what like the does an IUD cause some of this, or is this like where does this kind of just all of a sudden out of the blue for you to have not even known that you had an issue? Where does that kind of come from?
that's an amazing question. And I have to be careful what I say because I don't want to offend any professional doctors out there. But I will say one of the main culprits of uterine fibroids. So, for the record, uterine fibroids are non cancerous tumors of the uterus. One of the main culprits is a dominance of estrogen. Women are estrogenic beings, period. Or
Mhm.
should I say, humans with the uterus are estrogenic beings, period. So, even if you take birth control with a quote unquote low dosage of estrogen, that's still feeding your body extra estrogen that you really don't need, right? And so what happens is in the womb, in your uterus, it develops these non cancerous tumors. Probably about 3% of fibroids will develop into cancer. The majority of them never, right? About 70% of humans with the uterus will develop fibroids before they turn age 50, before they go into menopause. A lot of them don't even know that they have them, like me. 80% of that segment are black. And there's other things that contribute to it, including things like your environment, right?
Mhm.
The chemicals that you expose to your body. It could be our hair products, our beauty products, even things like the type of detergents and soaps that you use. They have a lot of added chemicals to them. And so things like external stressors, internal stressors, if you're in a really stressful relationship. I've been an employee benefit consultant for about 20, oh gosh, I'm dating myself, about 23 years. And when I'm going through a very stressful situation, I can physically tell how the fibroids are growing because they do get larger. And with the diet, that's another component of fibroids is your diet. If you're eating a diet that if you have a diet that's high in dairy products, a lot of fatty foods like fried foods, I'll
Mhm.
be transparent. I steal a French fry off on my husband's plate, my son's plate every now and then. But I'm not just going for the pizza. I'm not going for the French fries. I'm not going. That's just not in my regular diet. I will say I have about 80-20. I give
Mhm.
myself a treat every now and then, but I really try to eat as clean as possible. But also things like red meat. And I really cringe when I try to explain to people how these elements impact human with a uterus and her body and her fertility. And I'm oftentimes met with, well, I'm not going to stop doing that. I'm not going to, well, and that's fine. That's your prerogative. That's your right. But just understand what you're up against. And with that being said, it's my passion. It's my passion to educate people because I wasn't given the resources.
Mhm.
I left the doctor's office with a recommendation to have a hysterectomy. When I got back home with my boyfriend, who's again now my husband, I didn't even have the tools to articulate with him what the diagnosis was and what it all meant. And so, of course, he's looking at me like, what's going on with you? And I didn't have the tools to even explain to him. So, I honestly, I'm a type A personality, and I went headfirst in doing my own research. And I joined several different coaching programs. Because I wanted to try the holistic route first. Since
Right.
I didn't know what they were. And so I wanted to try the path of least resistance first. And so I went the holistic route. I joined coaching programs. I did yoga. I did qigong. I did the whole eat for your blood type diet.
Mhm.
I did meditation. I practiced Wim Hof's breathing exercises. A lot of that truly did help, but I needed more alleviation. So I
So,
eventually,
sorry, not to interrupt you.
mhm.
Were you having any symptoms at all? Was there anything going on that would have in your life had told you something was potentially not something was wrong, but that there was something going on that you were unaware of? Or is there really no major symptoms or signs for, say, a woman to kind of pay attention to kind of know that something might be happening?
That's an amazing question. So hindsight is 2020.
Hmm.
After I did my research, that's when I then realized what my body had been doing, but I wasn't paying attention to it.
Okay.
So things such as very heavy menstrual cycles. There's a term that's called menorrhagia, which is heavy and or prolonged menstrual. I know individuals where it may last for 45 days to a point where they need to have a blood transfusion because they become anemic.
Oh.
Also, things like brain fog. Brain fog is major. Pica. Pica is a huge, huge component because after you lose so much blood and you become anemic, that actually creates pica, which is basically the urge to eat something that has no nutritional value. You probably hear of people eating ice or eating
Yes. Okay.
cornstarch or really
Yep.
weird things like that. That's called pica. Other things like infertility, reproductive issues. For me, extreme lethargy. I
Mm.
experienced so much lethargy. And to be honest, I just thought because I was a single parent, I was working 9 to 5. And now it's so funny because when I hear myself say this, I'm like, how the heck did I do all that? But
Yeah.
I would take, when I was doing my undergrad, when I was going for my bachelor degree and then eventually my master's, I was taking my son with me to school at night. So I'd work 9 to 5 in corporate America. I'd go grab my son. We go to school at night from 6 to 10 p.m. And I would always be tired, 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 tired. And I just thought because I was working, well, no, that wasn't just being tired. That was lethargy, extreme lethargy. And then a sudden onset of having to go to the bathroom. But then when you go, you don't fully void. You're like, wait a minute.
Okay.
And then what would be really weird is after I would go, 5 minutes later, I got to go again. And then nothing really comes out. And the ultimate thing was a low libido. My libido was like non existent. And I didn't notice it. And I didn't notice it because I was so busy just doing life. Just
Yeah.
doing. So to your question, yes, there were signs, but I was not in tune enough with my body to really tune in to really pay attention to it.
Yeah. And I
Mhm.
mean, in all reality, like when you're a single parent and you are basically burning the candle at both ends, all of the things that we think that we feel, it's just an automatic, it's because of this. It's because of
Exactly.
this. Like,
Exactly.
and as women, we tend to have a very high tolerance for uncomfortable feels, whatever, in our
Environments.
bodies, right? Because we've always just had to
Mhm.
keep going, keep going. And when you're a single parent, you don't have time to stop at every little ailment or thing that is like something feels off, this feels off. I'll go get this checked, go get that checked. It's
Exactly.
just like I got to keep going. I got a kid to take care of, a job to do, school to do, and you push through, and we're so used to pushing through that I think sometimes those little subtleties of like a sign or a symptom, you don't really think that it's anything else because there's no major, holy shit, I'm sick. I know I'm sick. It's just the little stuff. But it's the little stuff that, like you said, I mean, if you put it all together, it's like, oh, okay, maybe this is something else. But we don't
Mhm.
always get that opportunity to have that time to look at all the little factors. And I mean, being tired because you're a single mom and going to school, working full time, that's a normal sign, symptom of, doing
100%.
both, right? Low sex drive, well, you're tired. You're tired because you work a full time job, you go to school in the evening. So being tired and having no sex drive would make sense. Like those things you wouldn't. And I totally
Mhm.
get that. So, but I guess for anybody listening, maybe to kind of hold on to some of what you're saying, there were some of those little signs and symptoms, and just
Mhm.
maybe a cautionary for anybody that is listening. If you've had any of those, or if those things kind of resonate with you, to definitely take action and maybe go get checked out. Advocate for yourself, because I know sometimes it's hard to advocate for yourself with a doctor. But yeah, so definitely, I'll just want to make note of that for anybody listening. But yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, so you have all these things, you come home and you're trying to share it with your partner and trying to figure out what to do, the natural route. Like you said, it was relieving some stuff, but it wasn't fully making a big difference.
Right. Right. So it wasn't because, I always tell people make sure you're really thoroughly vetting these coaching programs
Mhm.
holistic doctors out there, because I tried different programs and some were not as thorough as I was expecting, right? So just be
Mhm.
careful of that, be cognizant of that. But yeah, so I had four second opinions because I was honestly, in all transparency, I was afraid to go under the knife.
Mhm.
And because of my lifestyle, being a single parent and working full time and traveling for work, and I know this sounds crazy, I just couldn't take time off of work. I couldn't be off for 6 to 12 weeks, because when you have a
Right.
hysterectomy, now granted, technology has evolved and medicine has evolved, but you're still going to be off your feet for quite a while.
Mhm.
When she said to me, "Oh, you're fairly young. You'll be back on your feet in no time." I was mid to late 30s. Like, no,
Mhm.
no. So I eventually had uterine fibroid embolization, UFE, also known as uterine artery embolization, UAE. And that's simply a procedure, outpatient procedure. It's not a surgery. You're not getting it's not a surgery. It's not a surgical procedure. You're in and out within 4 to 6 hours.
Mhm.
Back on your feet within a day, maybe two. I was literally back in the gym, able to go back to full workout. Maybe about 3 weeks. I gave myself a little bit of time because I didn't want to push it too fast and end
Mhm.
up rupturing something. But yeah, I mean, for me, that worked. It simply blocks off the blood supply that's feeding the fibroid.
How
Now,
come
there's
the first
risks.
doctor didn't suggest that? How come her go-to was straight hysterectomy? Why wasn't it, these are some different options for you? Here's the benefits, the pros, the cons of each option. Why was that not talked about?
That's a great question. I was so taken aback because for me, hysterectomy was the first and only option she suggested. Never explained anything. I didn't find out about all the other options until my fourth opinion, my fourth visit. I literally got a sheet of paper with a list of different things. There's a lot of different things you can do before having a hysterectomy.
Mhm.
The way that I explain it, I equate it to, if you get a bad round of adult acne, you're not going to go get a facelift. There's nothing wrong with getting a facelift if you want one or if you need
Mhm.
one. But if you just get acne, you're probably not going to go do that. You're probably going to get some face wash, try some other things, and then decide from there. That's how aggressive getting a hysterectomy for fibroid, well, for the first and only option,
Yeah.
first and only recommendation, that's extremely aggressive. I don't know why she never mentioned anything to me. I would actually love to have that conversation with her. I don't know.
Mhm.
I wish I could tell you.
That's crazy. Was sex painful at all? Like, do the fibroids cause pain, internal pain?
Yes. So again, hindsight is 2020,
Yeah.
right? Now my husband, I just thought that he had too much girth for me. And
Ah.
I was like, I just didn't, I wasn't in tune with my body. Now every
Yeah.
little thing that bothers me, I'm like, wait, something's wrong, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But, yes, pain is very, very I'm sorry, sex is very painful and uncomfortable. So the days when it's not painful, it's
Mhm.
still going to be uncomfortable. One of the my most favorite positions when before I had my procedure. So when the fibroids were at its largest, my most comfortable position, excuse me, was the spoon method. Right, that was the
Okay.
most comfortable.
Yeah.
Spooning with him behind you, but also riding on top.
Mhm.
And the reason why is because it allowed me to control it.
Right.
Right. Other than that, it was very unpleasant. And literally in my mind, I just wanted to get it over with.
Mm.
I remember one situation where we just had to stop. Like he can tell I kind of like flinched back and I'm like,
Yeah.
ow. And so for him, that made it uncomfortable for him because he didn't want to hurt me, obviously. So every
Yeah.
time we'd be sexually intimate, he would kind of pause, like, "Are you okay? Does it hurt? How does it feel? Do we need to
Yeah.
switch positions?" And that's something I tell people, have an honest, open conversation because it wasn't just the girth, you know? Again, hindsight is 2020. I'm looking back
Mhm.
like, gosh, I allowed myself to suffer that long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you able to, like, reach orgasm at all then? 'Cause I mean, if you're uncomfortable, I mean, pain,
No.
like, that's not a pain and pleasure, that's, like, a chosen pain and pleasure that goes hand in hand, while having sex, like, so if you're uncomfortable, and it's funny because I get it, like what you were saying of like, I just wanted to get it over with, but it's like at the same time, like you want to be intimate with your partner, you want to
Mhm.
please them, and like women have
Mhm.
such a desire and a need to, to please our partners. It's like it's almost embedded in us that we just, we want that. So it's like
Mhm.
you're going through the motions, you're having sex with your husband, your boyfriend at the time who you love, but it's uncomfortable, and it's like in that sense, I mean, yeah, like obviously for you, you must not have ever been able to have an orgasm from having sex then.
If I had to guess, probably, oh gosh, if he hears this, probably maybe 50% of the time, if that. If
Mhm.
and that's like giving like extra. Yeah, I really, because my libido was non-existent, and
Mhm.
I would do it to please him,
Yeah.
not because I wanted to. I literally had no sex drive. I just didn't have sex drive at all.
Yeah.
And for me, again, hindsight is 2020. I wasn't bothered by it because I was doing everything else that I was supposed to do, taking
Mhm.
care of my son, taking care of my man, and pleasing him in other ways. And I just, for me, I was okay with that. And that's really
Right.
sad when you think about it. It's really sad, you know? And I'll tell you, after I had my procedure, I think we had to wait about 6 weeks. Oh my goodness. When that 6 weeks came and we had sex for the very first time, I think I probably even told him, I go, oh my God, I feel like the first time I had sex. Like literally, I didn't realize what I had been missing all that time. I
Oh,
didn't realize it.
wow.
Oh yeah. It was kind of sad because I didn't realize what I was missing. And I remember the exact day. I was like, oh my gosh. He's like, what? I'm like, what the hell? You know? And now I'm fine. There are still fibroids on my uterus, but I'm thriving. I'm no
Mhm.
longer scheduling my vacations around that time of the month. I'm no longer scheduling my work trips around that time of the month because what
Oh,
I
so it
started
flares
doing,
up during a woman's menstrual cycle.
well, flaring up, I guess if you want to say that, but you a couple things. You physically you look pregnant, right? So that doesn't really go away. It's just like the internal bloating, the feeling of being
Yeah.
bloated, that can come and go.
Okay.
But the inflammation's there. So standing, if you're visually looking at someone who has fibroids, oftentimes they probably are going to be asked if they're pregnant. I asked about, especially once he and I got married, everyone definitely thought, oh, are you pregnant? When's the baby
Mhm.
due? I'm like, what? And that's why I always say, I don't care if a human with a uterus, excuse me, looks like they're 8 months pregnant. Don't you dare ask if they're pregnant unless she tells you.
Mhm.
Because I personally know someone who physically looked like they were 8 months pregnant and it was fibroids. Literally,
Oh,
you're thinking they're going to get they're planning their baby shower.
yeah.
Literally, fibroids, was not pregnant. And she'd been trying
Wow.
to get pregnant for years. Yeah.
Oh, and because it causes infertility, I mean, that's almost like a little bit of rubbing salt in the wound, asking somebody that who struggles so much, right? But I mean, like you said, this is obviously something that a lot of women are struggling with and dealing with,
Yeah.
and some of them probably don't know. And,
Mhm.
the ones that do that, not having the proper information, education, and resources and tools, you know, probably feel like they don't know what to do, but and like it is a lonely journey, especially if the your initial medical provider isn't somebody who's giving you all the information that you need, and
Mhm.
with the consideration of how you're processing that for being somebody who never even knew.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what, like, it kind of blows my mind. It's like, it's one thing when, like, say you go for, like, your checkups and they're like, "Hey, you know what? We've noticed this. Let's keep an eye on it. In the meantime, why don't you try doing these things at home? They can be helpful. Look into this natural thing, but let's keep an eye on this." And like you're going through that together compared to nothing, and all of a sudden you're in there and it's like, "Oh, okay, well we can do this and take out your uterus and like don't worry about it." It's like, whoa, what happened to the 10, 15, 20 steps in between? I didn't have fibroids to I have no uterus. Like,
You know, you hit the nail on the head. And I think what troubled me mostly was I had been going to her every single year faithfully to have my annual OBGYN visit. every
Mhm.
single year. And at no point did you think to tell me that they were there. And fibroids don't just grow overnight, they don't develop overnight. They take some time. And especially the size that the two largest fibroids that I had, being that they were as large as they were, that tells us that they had been there for some time. What
Mhm.
I'm thinking is that she probably didn't say anything because I didn't complain. But I wasn't complaining about my physical feeling because I just thought I was on autopilot,
Yeah.
in life. I was just lifing. And I just thought that was part of getting older. I'm supposed to feel tired. I'm supposed to be rushing to the restroom,
Mhm.
but that wasn't normal. It's very common, but it's not normal. It's now
Right.
become normalized. And now my goal is to really try to help unnormalize it, because there's options out there.
Yeah. But
Hmm.
if you don't know, you don't know, and that's just the I mean, you went to 4 doctors to get those answers, and most
Yep.
people don't have, 1, that luxury of doing that, or 2, like, even to think that, like, I need to seek out multiple opinions on this because the information I'm getting and that like, that's the thing that I do find hard when it comes to medical information is at the end of the day, yes, a doctor has all the information, but they also still have their own personal opinion and perspective. And unfortunately, the guidance and the information that they give to their patients comes with a little bit of their personal opinion and their perspective of what they believe to be the right choice based off those beliefs. You don't always have the same belief system as your doctor does. So, to only rely on one person's opinion and how they see that things should be done, it really isn't right, to be honest. It'd be no different than if it's like if a girl went to 4 different boob doctors, every boob doctor has his own technique, the own
Yep.
his own favorite brand, size, style, the way he likes to do it, and they're all gonna tell you something different. You need a different size, you need this, you need this. So we always take that time when it comes to cosmetic stuff, but when it comes to actual your physical health, we don't even think that we need to. And obviously, we do need to.
Mhm. I mean, I could not have said it better myself. What's really sad is that you're right. We research, we're shopping for a car, when we're
Mhm.
shopping for cosmetic procedures, when we're buying a house, when we're researching a cell phone, what type of phone I want. Do I want to get the
Yeah.
latest iPhone or the latest Android? We take more time researching. And even
Mhm.
not only that, but taking it a step further, we don't take time really understanding our insurance so that we can make sure that we're able, so that we understand our benefits to where we can best utilize our insurance to take care of our physical
Yeah.
selves. We don't even take time to do that.
Yeah.
And you are so right. It's really sad because years ago, mom and dad and grandma, when a doctor told you to do something, you just did it. You never even
Mhm.
questioned it. After I had my procedure, I started talking to my friends and family about it. And I realized that my mom had a hysterectomy because of fibroids. But back then they called it tumor surgery. And I'm like, duh, that's fibroids.
Mhm.
My mother-in-law, she had it. She had a hysterectomy. My husband's godmother, she had a hysterectomy. My niece, she was diagnosed at 22, 24, and they recommended a hysterectomy on her. And I'm like, no, absolutely, you're not doing that. and so, just being able to best advocate for yourself is so very critical. Now,
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm clear in saying that I don't think there's anything wrong getting a hysterectomy if you truly need one. But
Mhm.
statistically, about 60% of hysterectomies that are performed are not even necessary. I mean, when
Yeah.
I did my research, I read, medical journals, scholar articles. I didn't just stop by going to a doctor and Dr. Google. I
Mhm.
went deep into my own personal research, and that's what helped me make my own personal decision.
Yeah. Which it's I mean, it's nice that you did that, and it's great that you actually had that, thought process to be like, "No, no, hold on a minute here. Like,
Yeah.
I need to take some time with this," in knowing that obviously something about what she said did not resonate with what you needed at that time. I know you said that so you have kind of like a is it like a nonprofit organization or just kind of like a group where you're educating and helping other women with this information?
So I'm glad you said that. So the fibroid pandemic is not a nonprofit, but I do have a nonprofit. Interestingly enough, it's called PAD the Pandemic. And PAD is like a double entendre. PAD as in like stopping or eliminating,
Hmm.
but it also means pad as in like natural non-toxic menstrual products. A lot of the menstrual products that are on the market, and when I started to do my research, I would like come home and cry every day. My husband's like, what's wrong with you? But it's amazing that a lot of these products that are sold in the regular stores like Walmart, Walgreens, CVS,
Hmm.
they have a lot of they actually call them unsanitary napkins instead of sanitary napkins, but they have a lot of products in them that are conducive to developing things like PCOS, endometriosis, and uterine fibroids. And the reason why I say that because they're created with chemicals. They're also created with recycled plastics, recycled
Hmm.
paper, and they may be 100% cotton. Just read the label. The top layer may be cotton, but what else is beneath there? And there are also chemicals in our sanitary products that are outlawed in other countries. So I created Pad the Pandemic to help eliminate unnecessary hysterectomies and to really help, individuals who are looking for fibroid healing.
Okay. Is there
Mhm.
actually
And
then a
period
truly,
poverty.
sorry?
So I said unnecessary hysterectomies and period poverty.
Right. So is there any actual like safe tampons, organic, all cotton ones that actually like women can use? It's funny because you said that 'cause I literally went to the store today to buy tampons and I always do look for the ones that say like organic cotton because like randomly that all of a sudden one day out of the blue kind of was just like, wait a minute. And I had this like weird kind of like intuitive moment where I was like, I don't really want to put that inside of me. And even to the point that then I bought like those period panties or whatever. But then somebody else told me those are bad for you too because of what's like lined in them. But I was just like, oh my God, like, is there any winning here when it comes to what can we use that is
Right.
actually safe for us to use while we're on our periods?
So yeah, there are definitely some out there that are safer. And the thing is, like the marketing is just astounding. And then they have the period tax. It's just, oh gosh, I can go on and on and on, right? But they don't have taxes on things like anyway. But so read the label. You'll be interested in seeing what's in these products. But yes, there are some safe options out there. There are a couple that I prefer. Rael, Rael.
Okay.
That's a brand that I like. They don't have a lot of added chemicals. They don't have the dioxin. I mean, a lot of these, menstrual products, they come scented and flower and
Hmm.
berry. That's not natural.
Yeah.
Your Wuha was created to clean herself, right?
Yeah.
But there's another brand. Not sure if you heard of this one. It's not. You're not going to see it on the shelves, but Rain, Reign.
Okay.
That's probably my most favorite. And then the Honey Pot. The Honey Pot is actually sold in Target now. So the
Okay.
Honey Pot is also a really good brand. I don't think any of them sell tampons. I think they're all just sanitary napkins. There is one, I haven't worn tampons and oh gosh, I don't wear them unless if I'm traveling, I'll
Yeah.
just bring them. There's one brand that I will use, and I think it's called Lola. I think that's the name of it.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, yeah, I couldn't even tell you. It's probably been maybe 8, 9 years since I've used just a
Yeah.
regular brand Maxi Always Kotex. It's been
Yeah.
years. Yeah, probably 8, 9 years since I've used them, if not longer.
It's crazy because, like, truthfully, like, I'm the type of person, like, I stopped a long time ago using chemicals in my house. And, like, I used to make my own laundry detergent and everything is, like, natural. It
Love it.
never even crossed my mind for a second to, like, even think about that, like everything I ingest or wash with and soap and this because I was like, I don't want the extra chemicals. And it didn't even cross my mind even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when that was like what I did to even think about, the
Mhm.
products that I use during my period and the chemicals that's in them. Like it's not even something that it was talked about. Like you constantly see people posting about chemicals and products and this and that, but like it was never talked about that women's, you know, tampons and pads and things like that were anything to be of concern of either. So it's crazy that it's taken this long for this to become a conversation and like now you're just starting to see more awareness and conversation around it. But, you know,
I mean, it's a
late.
multi-billion dollar, it's a multi-billion dollar, $1 trillion industry, right?
Right.
The last thing they want to do is take those chemicals off the shelf, just like cigarettes. It's a
Yeah.
multi-billion dollar industry. It's funny because I had a conversation with someone, I think maybe my very first Instagram posts. I first or second, whatever, I posted it was like a clip from a magazine of a doctor smoking a cigarette. And he was a doctor, but yet telling patients how healthy cigarettes were. And it was from an old magazine, and you can probably look
Mhm.
in the what they call newspaper, the file, I forget the film. And I said something to the effect of, how much of an oxymoron that is, which is the same exact thing that we experience when it comes to doctors recommended hysterectomies. And not only that, just a lot of the sanitary products that we use. But to your
Mhm.
point, those conversations are just like we are literally at the very tip of it. The
Mhm.
conversations are just starting to arise. And a lot of people, I have to be careful when I talk about it because people think you're nuts.
Oh
Let's just
yeah.
be honest.
Yeah.
People's like, oh gosh, here she's a conspiracy theorist. She thinks everything
Mhm.
horrible. No, no, I've done before I had any procedure. I did my research for 4 years,
Yeah.
4 years, while still struggling with the
Yeah.
fibroids. You right? So yeah, it was a journey for me that I'm still on right now.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So, with all the women that you do talk to and that you help in this space and stuff, what is it that you find is their biggest struggle or, the things that they're dealing with the most when it comes to, the fibroid situation?
Number one, menstrual cycles.
Okay.
And the reason why is because it's become so normalized that a human with a uterus, the menstrual lasts, 10 days. Like that's normal now. It's not
Mhm.
normal. It's common, but it's not normal. And there's a term that's called silent suffering. The individual ends up suffering in silence because of that reason, and I'm going to use myself as an example. I didn't even know what silent suffering was until after I started doing my research. I'm like, oh my
Mhm.
god, I do that. And it's when I was taking an extra pair of clothes to work and along with my suit jacket and a suit, and I'll hang it on the back of my office door just in case I had that huge prospect meeting that just popped up out of nowhere.
Mhm.
No, that was in the event that I had an accident. I would keep extra towels in my car just in case something happened. I broke down and needed extra towels. That was really because I could have an accident,
Mm.
and I can wear all the protection you want, including those panties you're talking about.
Yeah.
I At my worst, it was a tampon, pad, absorbent underwear, a pair of shorts, and my outside clothes. Whether it's shorts, I'm sorry, whether it's pants or a dress.
Yeah.
That was the whole entire time during that time a month for me. I wore that 4 layers. That's
Wow.
part of silent suffering,
Yeah.
and but to get back to your question, the biggest thing is the menstrual. And it's not talked about because it's embarrassing. It's humiliating.
Mhm.
People ask, well, how can you have an accident? You're in your 30s, you're in your 40s. Well, doubled up or quadrupled up, tripled up, and I literally just sneezed. That's it.
Mhm.
Or I laughed. Or I did nothing but just sit here.
Yeah.
And it's unfathomable for people to just really think of that, right? So that's like one of the biggest things. The other thing is not really knowing which direction to go. They allow
Mhm.
themselves to suffer for so long that they become used to it. Like I said, I knew this young lady who would go to the hospital every single month and have blood transfusions. That just became her norm. Like,
Mhm.
no, that's not normal.
Yeah.
That's not normal. But the biggest thing to answer your question is going to be the menstrual.
Okay. Is there anything natural? Like I know you did end up having a different type of procedure,
Mhm.
not the hysterectomy, but without having to then go like the full medical route, is there anything really out there that really does actually completely help reduce them or anything that is natural? Like did you find anything that
Yeah,
actually made a significant difference?
absolutely. There's actually several different coaching programs out there. You want to go more the holistic route where you're dealing with
Mhm.
the Aboriginal doctor, someone who doesn't only focus on westernized medication. It's okay to focus on westernized medication, but again, understand that contingent upon what you consume can contribute, right?
Mhm.
So, someone who's more into natural supplements, really into vitamins and nutrients and different combinations of food. I will say, when I went through one of the coaching programs, I went cold turkey vegan. I'm no
Mhm.
longer a vegan now, guys, so sorry if I'm offending anyone.
Mhm.
But I went cold turkey vegan and I saw a tremendous difference physically. I didn't have the pelvic pain. I didn't have the bloating, the inflammation. But for me, because of my lifestyle and traveling for work and blah, 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 like I just couldn't sustain it. It was
Mhm.
unsustainable because of my lifestyle. And then, I had a lot of brain fog, right?
Mhm.
So I had to really go back to the coaching, just the main logistics of really focusing on what works best because I should not have had the brain fog.
Right.
But to your point, yes, there are a lot of coaching programs out there that have been proven. I know personally individuals who were able to extract or eliminate the fibroids naturally. When I went through the coaching program, I did see some results. Had it we would have remained constant and
Mhm.
consistent, excuse me, I probably would have got better results.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. That's good to
absolutely.
that is good to know for, like, people who maybe really don't wanna go the medical route, and I know a lot of
Right.
women more so now leaning towards the more natural and stuff, and then obviously if for whatever reason those things don't work, then yes, at least it's nice to know that there is other options other than a hysterectomy, that there is other things they can look into, and just to ensure that they are advocating for themselves to get all of those options,
Ex-
presented to them, and if one person isn't gonna present them to go somewhere else and make sure that you can get that information. But for anybody listening that even has maybe any of this is resonating with them of things that they're going through, but they want to have more conversation or talk to other women that are have gone through this and their experiences and have a support, like, where can they reach out to you, where can they find this information and the support system that you guys kind of have?
Yeah, so I you can either go to www.thefibroidpandemic.com. You can go to Instagram under Fibroid Pandemic. I'm sorry, under the Fibroid Pandemic, or even Facebook under the Fibroid Pandemic. Interestingly enough, I decided that I wanted to take it a little bit further rather than just have one-on-one conversations with people or just tell them to go to my website.
Hmm.
So I've actually curated my own personal 5K run walk to bring forth awareness.
Hmm.
It's called Run FAR 5K, and FAR is an acronym for Fibroid Awareness and Resources.
Oh, I love that. Is that when's that coming up, or is that kind of ongoing that you guys are doing this on a regular basis?
It's in July. So July is Fibroid Awareness Month, and it's going to be here in the Atlanta area. It's going to be a 2-day event. Friday, July 14th, is going to be a panel discussion. I have about 10 to 12 dynamic speakers who are in
Hmm.
what I call the womb wellness space, from Aboriginal doctor to, mental health therapy, just a whole gamut. And then on Saturday, July 15th, is going to be the 5K run walk at 8 a.m. at Still Family
Yeah.
Farm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Thank you for all that. I like at the end there how you just kind of mentioned the mental health aspect of it, because
Hmm.
I do think that there is a huge, unfortunate kind of burden almost that as women we put on ourselves when we are physically going through something that affects our ability to, feel sexual, be sexual, feel sexy. And I think especially sometimes in relationships more so because then you worry about if I can't, be this person for my partner, how is that going to affect our relationship? And there's a lot of like shame and guilt and judgment that I think we put on ourselves when we feel like we can't, not that it's a performance, but when we feel like we cannot perform sexually to please our partners and to do all of these things. It's like we take that on as another whole mental responsibility on ourselves, which is so sad because at the end of the day, I mean, when you're going through something medically and health issues, that shouldn't even be something that we worry about. But all of a sudden, we start to think, like, well, I cannot have sex with him. Is he going to be okay? Like, will he survive 30 days, 60 days, 90 days without, me being able to have sex? And all of these things we start to worry about. And then the whole, well, what if he'll cheat or these things? Like, it's such a mental burden that we take on as women when we mentally, like physically, have health issues going on that prevent us from being able to be sexual creatures. And it's so sad, but it's huge.
I agree 1,000%. And number one, what I would say to that is be vocal, be
Hmm.
honest, be outright honest, and just explain what you are feeling mentally, physically, emotionally. I was unable to articulate that initially, but as I grew into my research, I became more communicative. So, number
Hmm.
one, definitely speak your truth and explain what's going on. But number two, think of it like if you had some other type of terminal condition, like a terminal cancer. I don't think we would be concerned about it at that point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We
It's so
wouldn't.
true.
So think of it the same way. Not saying fibroids are terminal, but it's still a condition that's outside of your control,
Yeah.
you know?
No, it's so true. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for, speaking your truth and what you went through and how you actually were able to turn that into now your passion of educating other women and educating just people in general, and then having a support system and then a network for women to feel like it's a safe place where they can kind of share their experience and reach out and connect. So I love that, and I'm so grateful that you were able to share that with everybody.
Likewise, I really do appreciate it. This has been amazing, Sarah. I really appreciate it so
Yeah.
much.
Well, we'll have to stay connected, and definitely I would love to do an episode, like kind of a panel episode with a lot of some of the amazing women that I've spoken to and interviewed over the last little bit that are just in different spaces, and just to be able to like openly share kind of all of it together as,
Mhm.
just a conversation about women's sexuality, our health issues, these things, and how like it really does play a larger, role on us as women in general. So,
Right.
that would be something I'd love to put together, this year sometime. But yeah, we'll definitely have to do that.
I think that'd be amazing. There are a lot of women out there who need the support and probably don't even realize it, you
Yes.
know?
Oh, totally.
And there are some out there who don't even know which way to turn. So I think that'd be amazing. I'd love to be a part of that.
Yes, absolutely. We will definitely do that for sure. So, yeah, again, everybody listening, go follow her. And for any of the women who, medically, if any of this kind of made you think, go get yourself checked out, advocate for yourself, talk to your doctor about some of these things, these signs, these mild signs, the more,
Mhm.
serious ones, and definitely take care of yourself. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.